All right, welcome to the new episode of Maze Cast. We're going to be talking about Room 34 tonight. I've been awake for 78 consecutive hours straight, or I've just been attacked by a grizzly bear or something. Make up your own story to explain my haggard appearance. We've got Alex and Andrew and Gaming Night. He's still insisting that's his real name. Tonight, Room 34. For those of you, if there's anyone in the world besides us who's actually been following all these videos, you know that Room 34 is a really special room to us. It really sticks out. Like it's probably one of the most mentioned rooms that we go to, and not really for much to do with the room itself. There's some neat stuff in the room. I mean, there's a guy walking out one of the doors. It's one of only like 2 rooms, I think, right, where you see someone traversing the maze beside yourselves.
You got room 29. I don't know if that counts.
They're not real. They're in the maze. They're not traversing it. I mean, there are like patrons in 26 too, and there are musicians and.
Oh, you mean like in 16?
Right. I'm talking about Top Hat.
Yeah, for sure.
Top Hat and Mr. Yes are the only people you can actually see moving through the maze, so that's a big deal. That's sort of reason you think you might reference this room time and again. There's the interesting connection with room 34, where 34 has the OU that looks like an upside-down no, and when you go through the door, there's no on the sign. That's pretty neat. But the reason why we mention room 34 all the time is because of the needles and eyes solution, which just became for us an expression to mean, I guess, a really unsatisfactory solution. And just to summarize, the idea here is that...
No, save it.
Well,
You're right. We gotta check in first. Hey, Gaming Night, how much do you know about this room so far?
I took some notes. I was looking at images and trying to kind of look. It's like really got a lot of weird stuff going on in it, but
It is. But have you say examined Gentile's site or the Abyss as regards this room?
no, I don't like the check. I like to try to go into it fresh with my own because I don't know if sometimes other sites might lead me astray or might kind of spoil the fun for me. I would imagine, as you'd say.
all right.
We're all about fun spoiling, so I agree with you. That's what we do.
If we see fun,
Should we get Gaming Night's thoughts or what?
sure, let's go ahead and do that. I was going to ramble for like an hour about the emotional impact of needles and eyes, but
Yeah, well, we'll save that. We will save that. We'll build up.
okay. What thoughts do you have on the room, Gaming Night?
Well, like I said, the words, the jibe, pine, and compass all seem to be focusing on that painting with the picture of the boat because it's just by changing course, following the wind, the direction of the wind, and the boat's going towards the left. So, like room 10 is the more likely room that would it has if I'm not mistaken, room 10 has some paths that lead to trap rooms. If I'm not mistaken.
It doesn't have anything that leads to a trap room, but it leads to a room that leads to a trap room. Leads to room 14, which is a pretty dangerous room, because unless you back out the way you came, you end up walking into the trap. So yeah, there's 10's kind of dangerous.
But like I said, there is I know that if I'm not mistaken, there is a path that does lead you back to the directions you need to go, though.
Well, it is, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll keep silent about that, I guess.
Yeah. And then that Kane's showing quick. I think, like I said, room 25. It's like, even though the door says yes, it kind of wants you to say, quick, rethink your answer. And the door yes means no, don't take it. And obviously, the one with no, you can't take because there's no room number to go into for that one.
I'm sorry, I should have asked. So how did you relate Jibe Pine Compass to the ship? Was it just because of compass?
No, I was trying to pine it means to yearn, potentially for something unattainable. So, so obviously exit, getting the correct path that following, where the painting is, you obviously don't want to take, because that's not going to take you. It's going to basically put you in a position where you're going to be unattainable to get into the maze and back out, like to room 45.
Oh, so you believe that the room is actually warning you against door 10?
No, against 25, where the
Oh.
painting is.
So you take the painting as pointing toward 25. I see.
Yeah, and then it's telling you to change course and go to like room 10 instead.
Right.
Yeah, which to tell you the truth, to me that little hook, I'm sure it has a name, on the front of the ship looks to me like it's pointing at 25.
Yeah.
Everyone says, "Oh, the ship is sailing towards 10." I don't know how you determine that. It would have to sail right through.
No. You because jibe is a nautical term meaning to do sort of a C formation. So if the ship went in a C figure, it would arrive at 10. It would be going around 25, almost as if it's trying to avoid it.
All right.
That's possible. No, I don't dislike that. But I agree with Vince, and I think that Gaming Knight's comment illustrates the fact that, yes, I've seen people try to argue that the ship is just sailing toward 10, and I feel like that's pretty ambiguous.
Yeah.
No, I don't think it's like I said, it's like he said change course, so they're changing the course from 25 to go to the other one instead of 10.
No,
So
I
they
think
want to go to 10. Yeah.
I think the angle of the sails is more pointing towards 10 than it is 25. Personally, that's just me.
Well,
True.
it's
But then again,
very tough to say. I mean, what I mean to say is
At
it's
least I would say it's so unclear that if you didn't already know the answer, I don't think you would feel confident about which one it's pointing towards.
Yeah, if that's the only clue you're looking for.
yeah, but like I said, that's what I was getting from reading the little words by the door, the 10, and then looked at the painting. But then it also is a potato, and I don't know. I mean, because there's a lot of stuff you can get from a potato, like different interpretations of potato too. So, like potato famine maybe, or, I don't know. A lot of weird stuff. I don't know.
No, that's good. That's good. Thank you. Yeah. I like what you said about Pine. I don't think I've ever heard anyone, maybe I'm wrong, but I was just kind of looking over things a little briefly before this. I don't think I've seen anybody get the sense of yearning out of Pine, which was interesting. I don't know exactly what you can do with it, but I like that. Does that ring a bell with any of you guys?
I don't think I have heard anyone try to do anything with that.
I mean,
it crossed my mind,
Pine
but
is
I never, nothing comes of it, so. In terms of, you can't relate it to.
Interpret Pine as relating to wood, which I guess would pertain to shipbuilding. So that's how that goes together. But I kind of like because it is rather a romantic image, isn't it, of this archaic-looking ship. I kind of like the pine as yearning interpretation.
Well, that gives the okay. Should I say what the three words relate to, or do you want to get to that later?
I think we might as well.
Only because what
the ideas.
Something I wanted to talk about in terms. Okay, so the three words for those who don't know, they all relate to the word needle, and Vince will get into that later. But I just want to address the point, but that it could also, all those things could be related to a boat instead of the word needle, because the jibe is a nautical move. Pine, like you said, it's a wood that could have been the boat could have been made out of that, and of course a compass, something you take on a ship. I don't know. I'm pretty sure that was mentioned before, but that was my second interpretation to the three words relating to each other.
It's really hard not to see compass and look at the ship, especially, and then when you look at the other two as well. And I do kind of feel like, well, Vince, what's your thought on this? I do kind of feel like those three words were meant to kind of pull double duty and just kind of get you looking at the ship as well, in addition to the other thing that they clue. Do you agree?
I don't know. I wouldn't say it's impossible, certainly. If I had to guess, I would guess that they were not intended to relate to the boat. Although, I mean, jibe just clearly is. It's a nautical term, especially since he's chosen to spell it with a J rather than a G, which I think is more common in the nautical context. Am I right about that? I remember going round and round about how jibe was spelled some time ago, and it's
The J you say is more common nautically, and the G is more for like the teasing remark.
right, right, and neither one is a common term now. I mean, anyway, and archaically it's been spelled both ways, I think, and maybe even spelled with a Y sometimes. I don't remember. So it's not like it's clearly one or the other, but it is more suggestive of the nautical term than the kind of insulting remark, quip, needle thing. So there's something to it. Pine seems to fit much better with the needle than the ship. But I guess if you're looking for something to do double duty, that's plausible. But I think when you're just looking at things that are associated with seafaring or a ship, that gives you a much broader range of things, as opposed to, opposed to things that have to relate to kinds of needles. So I think they fit very tightly with needle, and then sort of reasonably, jibe and compass fit very well with seafaring.
Yeah, and then pine kind of gets you over the line. It's not great, but it gets you there. I mean, you can justify it when you've already found some legitimate clues to point you in that direction.
No. So I don't know. I could see it. I could see it being either way. If I had to guess, I would guess it was just about the needle, but I wouldn't argue strongly against. I wouldn't even argue against someone who thought otherwise. I would just say that it could be.
So, do you have any other thoughts we want from Gaming Night? Do you have anything else you want to say before we kind of share a bit of what's been maybe?
Well, like I said, I was looking at that one. Then also the room 25, the little. I just noticed it's kind of ripped and fallen, like the little corners ripped off too.
Yeah.
But and then it looks like the pillow kind of looks like it's a enclosed maze or something, like really weird looking.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Well, we got to get to the solutions, because I feel like, again, I want to just get out into the air what our past is with this room, and then talk about it. That's okay. I'm more interested in needles and eyes and what that says about the book than doing a normal show on this room at the moment, if that's okay. So here's the way it goes. There's like a million things in the room that have eyes or that are suggestive of the word eye. Potatoes have eyes. The ship has an eye on it, which identifies it with the Argo from Greek mythology. There's the pillow is sort of has like a bullseye pattern on it with the concentric shape. No, they're not really circles; they're squares, so that might be a stretch. But jibe, pine, compass all relate to the word needle, because there's a pine needle, a compass needle. Jibe is again a word that is a synonym for needle in the context of sort of a biting remark you make about somebody. The cane that's on the floor with the quick sign on it has been interpreted as quick, meaning if you tell someone quick, that's like you're telling them to hurry. Hurricane, hurricane, that's something that has an eye. So you've got these eye things going on.
And the don't miss the picture on the far right as well.
Yeah, now the picture on the far right is it just looks like, an obelisk of the kind that you've seen in all kinds of monuments. But if we take it to be a particular one called Cleopatra's Needle, then we've got another needle in the room. Now here's where the problem comes in. Well, I'll say, so the solution that was announced, I think David Gentile hit on it, and then White Raven gave it the thumbs up. It was, hey, we've got these eyes, we've got these needles. Needles are kind of like straight lines, they're like ones, and then eyes are kind of circular, like zeros. So we got 1 zeros, we got 10. And White Raven said, "Yeah, that's it." And we were all like, "That's really stupid. That's god awful." Because what it requires you to do is, in this room full of things that have eyes, either literally or some kind of figurative eye, the needle you're supposed to leave untouched. Like, even though needles have eyes, you're supposed to say, wait a minute, we're not going to worry about the eye on that needle. We're just going to consider needles as needles and eyes as eyes, and then we put the needles and the eyes together, and that gives us 10. And it was additionally problematic because it had been noted 15 years ago on the John Bailey site, all this stuff cluing to I, and I is, EYE is a homonym for AYE, I, meaning yes, like all in favor say I.
Yeah.
And we've got a door that says yes on it. And so it seems like there's something going on with these eyes, and the word yes. And it was really mysterious, why do we have all these eyes that seem to be pointing us towards yes? What are we missing in the room that turns it around to something else? And it seemed like what turns it around is, just don't think about it. Don't think it's shaped like a 0. Just stop right there, no further. And it seemed really dissatisfying because it was almost like the puzzle punished you for drawing the kinds of connections you would ordinarily be expected to draw. In some contexts that would work. In some contexts I could see it working where, you're overthinking it, there was a real simple solution here. But this solution was it seemed like such a stretch. It's not like once you see it, it's so clear, it works so well. Once we all heard it, we were all just like, no, that can't be right. That's ridiculous. But then White Raven, right, well, sorry, this is one of the solutions I confirmed with Manson. And I'm sorry to repeat all this. We actually talked about all this on an earlier show, and I had an expression on my face like my dog had just died after hearing all this stuff. And so then we were just like, well, I guess we got to live with it. That's kind of like we have to live with Room 45.
Are you sure that that's one thing that Manson confirmed? Are you sure it just wasn't something else?
Well,
because he said that he talked to him several times, and he mentions that he's confirmed some stuff, but I don't remember this being in part. Like, I don't think did he ask him about the needles? Was this something he asked him because we were so adamant about it?
No, he didn't go. It wasn't after we made a fuss about it. Remember, he said that this was one of his favorite puzzles, and so he talked to Manson about this room in particular because he liked the needles and eyes so much.
Well,
now, from remembering correctly,
you should talk a little bit about why it's arbitrary and why people, because viewers might now be, because now they know it, they might see, I see the connection there. Why is that weird?
Well, I tried to hit a couple of those reasons, which my problem number one is that needle seems to funnel towards eye the same way that everything else in the room does. Like when you see potato and you're supposed to go eye, and you see the boat with the eye on it, and what you're focused on is the eye. And if you accept the hurricane, if you're supposed to take hurricane and think that's something with an eye, all these things are just pointing you towards eye. And needle seems to do the same thing. It seems to do it fairly easily, in fact, more easily than hurricane.
I think there's a real force of analogy, actually, between the eye of the hurricane and the eye of a needle. I agree with you that you're inclined to see them as both pointing toward the same thing.
Right. And this puzzle requires you to stop.
Verbally, the verbal analogy of eye of a blank, it applies equally to both of those. I mean, you don't talk about like eye of a potato, but you talk about potato's eyes, but eye of a needle.
Those are. So in that sense, it seems arbitrary to say this one particular thing, we're not going to take that step on it, we're just going to look at the shape of it. And it's additionally problematic that the shapes we're dealing with are lines and circles. Because you can go to any room, not just in Maze, you can look at any illustration in any book pretty much in the world, and you're going to find some circles and some straight lines,
So in other words,
that's led to Sorry, go on, Alex.
So I was gonna say, you think he's using different rules in this particular room?
Well, according to interpretation,
I think every room potentially has its own rules. Like I still think the vast majority of these rooms we don't really know what's going on in them yet, and I think it's okay for them to use their own rules. But what I'm saying is this requires a certain kind of I don't want to say dim-wittedness, but it's like a certain amount of blindness to connections that seem so deliberately drawn in order to arrive at a solution that is so much less elegant than like the wrong solution, you know? Like finding all the I's and then saying EYE, AYE, that means yes, we're going to go through the yes door. That is a better solution for drawing the room together than needles and eyes, you know?
and there's the alternate route, which I also saw mentioned, was the eyes have it, which gets you there even in just one step. The eyes have it, just go right to yes. I saw that on the Abyss as well. It just works. Yeah, but what you were saying about the lines and the circles forming 10, yeah, there's been, I think, like, I don't although I agree a lot with a lot of your specific complaints against it, such as this, the yes idea. I don't really hate the general needle, and I don't hate the theory of it that much, but there's been just, it seems strange that there's been so much that's been posted on the Abyss that's been apparently confirmed, according to White Raven's view, that just really kind of goes off on this whole exciting horizon of being able to conjure tens everywhere in the room. The vertical stripes of the couch have been contrasted with the square pattern on the pillow to make a 1 and a 0, and the Cleopatra's Needle has been combined with the crescent moon to make a 1 and a 0, which is crazy because you would think that if you wanted the moon to be a 0, you would make it a full moon. And most egregiously of all, and this is all stuff that White Raven considers to be official, the vertical stripes on the chair of the potato supposedly go together with the eyes of the potato to make a 1 and a 0. And this is all stuff that's up there at the top of the page on Room 34 as being stuff that's confirmed. And it's all just
That's nuts. That last one is nuts.
It's just, yeah, but it's indefensible.
Thank you very much. I suggested that solution.
Oh, well, I find it absolutely deplorable. It leaves a terrible...
I don't disagree with you.
You're just kind of going along with what was already...
The mass of the ship as well as a 1, right?
I mean, once we got eyes and needles, there's stuff all over on every page now where we're saying if the right door number has a 0 or a 1 in it, we're like, oh, this thing's a 1 and this thing's a 0.
Yeah.
You know, you go to room 14 and we've got like where you've got that giant hand on the ball.
Oh my God, yes.
And the ball is a 0 and the arm of the table is a 1.
Oh no.
I don't know. I mean,
and the bullseye is a 0 and the paperclip is a 1.
Yeah, of course, it looks exactly like a 1.
I mean, to give an illustration, although I don't have the PDF pulled up right now, so no one at home is actually going to see this illustration except if I hold it up. How's that? Okay, if you look at room 41, for instance, now this is another room that connects to room 10, but you're not supposed to go to room 10 from room 41. That's the wrong way. But if it were the right way, and if we wanted to clue it through things that look like 1s and things that look like eyes, well, we have, an eye on this thing, and we've got eyes being pointed at on the doll.
We've got the 1 above room 1.
Yeah. No. You don't have to get that silly about it. I mean, you've got the horns that have the rounded...
Yeah, I pointed out the door frame, and you pointed out the horn, and that made a 1 and a 0.
Yeah.
The door frame within 10.
And you've got the uprights on the slide that stick out way above the slide. Those are like 1s just popping up there for no apparent reason. And even the mushrooms, if you can see those down at the bottom there, that's kind of like a circular part and then a straight part coming out of it, so it's kind of like a 1 sticking out of a 0. Like, okay, that stuff seems silly, but it seems as plausible as the the stuff in room 34 that is apparently the correct solution.
I think that's actually a good way to bring it up, is to compare it to another room, saying if you were to choose these clues for another room, it would seem just as silly.
And not to belabor it, but you can do kind of some of the same stuff in 37, which also connects to 10 because it has eyes in it. But I don't want to do that because I think part of room 37 is to falsely lead you to 10. And if you're interested to see why, watch our episode on room 37. But anyway, that's why that continues to kind of be our catchphrase for solutions that we really dislike. Now, it's kind of up in the air whether there's something more to that, or even how much. Like, I don't know what Manson would have said back if that were wrong, you know? If White Raven's saying to him, wow, I love room 34. I think it was really great the way, you know, you glued the needles and the eyes and then you put the shapes together to make the 10. I think that was brilliant. I don't know whether Manson would have said, oh, no, you've got it all wrong. That's not what's going in that room at all. Or whether he would have just said, well, you know, who knows? So
what you're saying is you think that while White Raven may consider this confirmed, you're not sure if, based on Manson's reply, it would actually have been.
I would permit the possibility. I believe that White Raven is truthful about everything he says about his correspondence with Manson, but with someone like Manson who seems to speak as guardedly as he does about Maze, I think it's easy to see something as confirming your point of view more than it is. Now, who knows? Maybe Manson gave him very explicit feedback and said, well, thanks a lot. Yeah, I did. I thought that was a great puzzle, too. I was really proud of that one, which would seem to say, yeah, that's correct. But who knows? It's not totally clear what the feedback was that Manson gave him that led him to believe that was correct. But even if it is correct, there still are elements in the room, I guess. Like, I'm certain that Manson didn't say, oh, yeah, thanks a lot. And by the way, did you notice that crescent moon that I used as a 0? I thought that was pretty sneaky. Did you, you know, that stuff is all his or other people's thoughts on it. There could perhaps be something more justifying seeing the room that way that we haven't struck upon. Much like in room 45, you know, which I would sort of compare this to in the sense of being sort of an unsatisfactory solution, but one that we at least sort of know is correct and have to live with. You know, 45 might be just so difficult we could never solve it, but maybe there's something in the text or something if we understood it that justifies combining all those objects in those ways. I don't know. But anyway, is that Alex, do you think that's a satisfactory job of explaining what was unsatisfactory about the needles and eyes?
I am satisfied.
Okay. Gaming Night, you're hearing this stuff for the first time, right?
Yes.
So I've totally tainted you on Room 34. But you can feel free to disagree. I mean, that's an unfair way for you to be introduced to it, for me to say, here's the solution and here's everything we think is wrong with it.
Well,
but what do you think about needles and eyes?
Well, anyways, not to change the subject too much, but the word magpies, I mean, I was looking up some stuff, and they have, basically the magpie is like an origin of bad luck and omen. And it's got like 10 verses in it. Like one, you know, the 10th is the last one on it. So I don't know if that maybe.
What has 10 verses in it?
It's a nursery rhyme about for the magpies being a omen of bad luck.
Oh.
And the 10th one is says intend for the devil's own cell. Since devils are kind of very apparent in some of the maze rooms in here.
Yeah, we don't know what to make about that magpie thing yet.
Isn't it 4 and 20 blackbirds baked in a pie?
No, it's a different one. Yeah, I know the nursery rhyme you're talking about, Gaming Night. Although I think I I've only ever heard it going up to 7 and then ending on 7 for a secret never to be told. And I see that it goes further on, but I think it might be a little, might be presumptuous of Manson to assume that people would know about the full older version when I think the only pretty well-known version these days just goes up to 7. 7 for
Right. That's why I said it's a far fetch, but it could be a.
But magpies is certainly the most conspicuous. Well, it's got to be the most conspicuous word in the text. Well, there are a couple ones, and I know somebody. I don't remember who, but somebody tried to justify correlating magpie with maybe and taking that as a hint directly from the host.
Yeah, I mean, it has the same number of syllables. Starts with the same 2 letters.
Yeah. It's rock solid, actually.
Yeah, that magpies really jumps right out at you. Although I don't know if that might just be because it's such a unfamiliar insult to somebody. Have you ever heard someone insulted as being called a magpie outside of this book?
Never. I think if I... What is it about magpies? I thought magpies are all about like stealing and hoarding things. I think if I heard somebody call somebody else a magpie, I would assume that they were calling them like a kleptomaniac, not...
Oh, right, yeah, I did hear someone called a magpie once outside of this book, and it was a comic book artist referring to other artists that stole aspects of his work. And
Right.
It wasn't really an insult. It was just, it actually, I think, meant it kind of complimentary, not a compliment, he was just as a reference, not even derogatory, just people that had been inspired by his artwork. I'd heard him refer to them as magpies. But yeah, this definitely seems to be not, and I had to look it up to see. It was apparently used in that sense of being like someone who's, I don't know, not altogether with it. I don't know, dumb exactly, but maybe kind of dizzy or something.
Yeah, full of fluff.
Yeah.
Do you think we should move on to discussing the text, or is there more you want to talk about the general status of the room, the damn status of
I
the
don't
room?
even want to talk about the text, man. I just feel so depressed when I think about this room. I feel like we're on what episode now? Are we on this thing?
30-something, too.
I think we're even farther. I think we're like 30.
34.
We're miles down the road, and I look at this thing, and it just like the first time it hits me, it's like, man, what are we doing? We're not solving anything. We're not coming up with anything. And even if we came up with the solution to a room, if the solution were like this, we would move right past it, because we'd say, nah, that's stupid, that can't be right. Why do we keep saying that's stupid, that can't be right? But see, I don't like engaging in that kind of talk either, because I don't like, derogating the book. At least not in a public forum. I want to reaffirm, never in my darkest despair do I have anything but respect and admiration for Christopher Manson, and I still think Maze is one of the greatest works of art I've ever encountered. Like, artistically and aesthetically, I know Alex doesn't like it when I say the word like that. Aesthetically, I still love it. I think it has some great puzzles in it, but it does really, I think it really takes like almost religious faith to believe, to keep saying, that can't be right. It's got to have a better solution than that.
Yeah, all it means is you care.
What's that?
All it means is that you care. You care.
Yeah.
Well, no, but I mean, I see what you're saying. Like in a book of 45 puzzles, not that all of them are puzzles, but in a book of that many, if it is really true, and I think he did confirm that, even on the loop and stuff, there are puzzles built in to help you get back to room 1 and everything. There've got to be some duds, and maybe we're really just having trouble accepting the fact that this one might be a bit of a dud.
Well, the problem, what it is that we've got a very small sample set of confirmed solutions,
Yeah.
Although that's a bad way to look at it too, because there are some solutions, the good solutions that are so obviously correct that you would never think to question them, are never going to need to be confirmed. Room 1, you don't have to have Fable confirmed there. We all know it's right. C, ape nose, no escape. We know that's we know what that's about. And Seabag, okay, we're all good with that. Room 14, turning around, going back the way you came. We know that's legit. We don't need that confirmed, you know. So I am looking at it the wrong way. But the way that it keeps hitting me is like, okay, we've got room 45 was the first room that was confirmed because there was publisher feedback. You know, it's like, here's the answer, man. Like, and it was so unsatisfactory that, you know, 20 years, 30 years later, people still don't want to accept that that's the answer. Like, they're still looking for a way. Was that really the answer? Was that really? I know the publisher, you know, who was paying $10,000 to people to come up with this answer. They said it was the answer, but is that really the answer? What's really going on here, Manson? Can you rephrase it this way? Maybe I can, but it couldn't be clearer. We couldn't have a clear statement that that is the answer to that room, and no one would have ever gotten it. No one could ever get it or will ever get it. So you kind of begin on that disheartening note, maybe, and then this. And really, it's still, even after all the time we've talked and all the things we've done, when I think about this room, it just makes me think, man, we're just making up things for our own satisfaction, and what's really there is needles and eyes. Because you know you can do it. David Gentile does it. He's got a goddamn 5,000-word treatise on every room, explaining, you know, solutions that make sense to him. White Raven did it. You know, he's not crazy, but he came up with solutions for every room that to him seems solid, makes sense, and to us just seem totally nuts. His solutions don't all seem totally nuts, but a lot of the stuff he says seems crazy. It does. So when we come through and get these solutions, like in 39 or 37, and it just like that all fits together. It all seems to fit together. It seems perfectly plausible. You know, it's just hard not to feel, well, maybe we're just fooling ourselves the same way that everyone else is. I don't know. Am I the only one that gets that?
No, I feel that as well.
But it's not like, I don't know. What are you going to do? I don't want to stop. Like, maybe I have a problem. But it's not. It doesn't want to make me want to stop reading Maze and thinking about it. But it just makes me really wish there were a more objective means. Or
I think Andrew's right. It is a dud in a sense.
That we need to be open to the possibility of there being duds. Maybe this room isn't a dud. Maybe there's something else going on here, but.
Listen, it still has a few other plausible things that are outside the scope of pins and needles. Like I don't think we mentioned it. This is a simple one. The couch has stripes on it, and it's got the pillow, which is shaped like a zero. So ones and zeros because the stripes.
You motherfucker!
That's pretty sober. I mean,
that was one of the ones that I hate.
Yeah, he mentioned that as something he thought was really stupid.
No, I'm only bringing it up because I'm saying I think it's outside of the pins and needles.
Of the needles and eyes specifically, but a different way.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a good point. And the first.
I don't like it either. I don't like it either, Andrew. I was just.
Okay.
It was really the only thing that I could think of outside of the pins.
There are a few other solutions, official solutions, that have been confirmed outside of the needles and eyes. But you want to say something, Vince?
Oh, I was going to say even about the couch, and I mentioned this the first time we talked about needles and eyes. No, even before it was confirmed. When we first, because we did one show, we mentioned that White Raven had accepted this solution, and we're like, God, what is he, nuts? And then before the next show, he mentioned, well, Manson confirmed it, and then we came back, and that's when I, had my super grim demeanor on for it. But I mentioned about the couch, like, the couch is not a solution. You cannot solve the room from the couch, but like in other rooms where there are design elements or things that seem to confirm the solution when you get it or play along with it, I do think the couch and the pillow fairly goes. If we accept that needles and eyes and what's going on in the room, I do think the couch and the pillow fairly plays along with that theme, such that if you were looking for support, like if you thought needles and eyes, I think this is right. And then you looked at the couch and say, yeah, and look what he did with the couch. And maybe if there were a few other things that seemed to fit with it, you'd go along with that.
Well,
Yeah, I
yeah, I
understand.
know what you mean.
Yeah, go on,
But
Gabe.
it was weird. Is like the even the where the potato is, that's even a striped pattern too.
Oh no.
Right. Andrew mentioned that. I think it was Andrew. Maybe it was,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, that's right, because it was my solution that was. Well, I mean, I was just flailing like a
You're just.
dying octopus,
No,
just
I
like
understand.
reaching for.
I know how it is. No, I agree with your line of reasoning about like sort of just little confirmation and things like that. I still feel like I personally just hate the couch, and I just have this weird personal grudge against it, and I don't think that it's a great. I don't think you can sanely get 10 out of that, even if you
Okay,
are
well,
10. But I know what you're talking about with that kind of a thing. I'm sorry, what'd you say, Alex?
the other one that I hate is the legs, trying to count the legs and trying to get 10 with the hidden
sure.
one sort of kind of behind the one, the chair and stuff like that.
Yeah, it kind of sucks to try to get 8 feet, but at least 10
10.
feet.
That one's crazy, but you know what? That one has nothing to do with White Raven. That was totally us. I don't even know where it started. Probably with me, and I print block. Well, I didn't start with me, but I remember. I mean, that came from us counting the legs on the ground.
Yeah, you and White Raven are the only credited people. And there are a few things pointed at, like the fact that we have the foot of the guy who's leaving and the text saying sitting down some on the floor. I mean, I don't feel strongly about that one way or the other, but at least it's completely separate from 1 and 0.
I got a real problem with those kinds of solutions when the door numbers are like 10 and 25, and then you find something in the room you can count 10 of. Well, you're not going to find something in the room you can count 25 of, you know. So.
Oh, really, Mr. Room, the Bone Tree Room.
Oh shit! I forgot about that. Yeah, the exception is room 31, where you can count 41 branches touching the top of the page.
Which Vince did last week. Now we say you can't count stuff.
That's the exception that proves the rule. Yeah, it doesn't matter how much you hate it. If it looks like it's going to give you a solution, then eventually you're gonna do it. Even if 23 hours out of the day you're like, this is too stupid. I'm not going to post this. This is bullshit. Eventually something's going to hit you like, oh, I'm just going to post it. Let's see. Oh.
Totally.
Anyway, that's what I wanted to get off my chest about 34. That's
what's really weird. Like half his body is like, like his body almost was like half of it's through the door, so it's like a silhouette like of a 1 or something. But then again, he got that extended arm though, so.
Oh no, you're turning the man into a 1 too. Oh dear.
No, I'm just saying it can't be because it's just, but it's too it's like too obvious, and to try to do that, and it doesn't seem logical for the way this guy has been working all his puzzles, and the rest of the book.
I don't know how he works his puzzles in the rest of the book. We don't know a goddamn thing about this book. Nothing.
Alright, so we want to start over with episode 1 next week?
Yeah, we're going to delete everything we've done. We're going to start over.
Okay.
We're going to forget that we know anything, right? We're going to blank it all out, start from room 1. We're going to start from the directions.
Yeah.
No, I mean, we know we found a lot. It just really gets me down.
Well, that's probably because one of those things is there's no solution guide to this thing, so it's like we're basically lost essentially in the maze it's in itself. Ourselves are lost in this freaking thing.
And that's definitely to the benefit of the book's legacy, Like that's certainly what drives interest in the book. Like it's totally the right move. Christopher Manson should not be telling us stuff. But that's the conflict. Is that God damn it? We want him to tell us some shit. I want to know shit about this book, but it only works when he doesn't tell you shit about the book.
Here's a silly thought, but what if the maze guy is like basically our ourselves, the people, the readers itself?
Well,
guide as reader. I think it's been proposed.
It's been suggested. I think it probably can't work with some of the explicit clues that are given about the guide, like that the descendants of his previous neighbors are still telling stories about his family. His father was deceived in some major way. He certainly seems to be some kind of mythological figure from a long time ago.
Yeah, but I'm not thinking it's the Minotaur though.
You don't like the Minotaur?
I like it. It's it works in Greek mythology, but I don't know if he would incorporate that Greek mythology in with this or not.
Well, I mean, there are definitely a lot of elements of Greek mythology in the book. If it's not the Minotaur, and I'm certainly not going to say that it is, but if it's not, it's at least true, I think, that he very deliberately put misleading clues to suggest the Minotaur in here. You know, the bull horns in 7, and the guide making statements about how we're all of us part animal. I mean, a lot of it just fits the Minotaur very well. I mean, just the fact that you're going around a maze makes you think about the Minotaur.
Yeah, I know what you mean, but I'm saying it's almost like he wants that to be like a red herring or something.
Well, yeah, it may well be. That's kind of the things that it seems like the most obvious answer, and so the question is it the most obvious answer, and we're trying to look past it because we don't think that needles and eyes could possibly be the answer, or is it really too easy to be the answer?
Well, I think from White Raven, depending on how much we believe that this is a good interpretation of what Manson has told him, but from White Raven, there should be more of a specific. There should be a more specific set of clues throughout the rooms pointing to the guide's identity that we haven't necessarily uncovered. And he says that solving the directional puzzles will help isolate what's left over, and that can help point to the guide. That's what Raven said. Might be a misinterpretation, but in one way or another, there's the hope on the horizon of getting towards some kind of more definite proof of his identity, and not just always being like, oh, is it the Minotaur or is it someone else, back and forth forever.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any doubts about what White Raven's saying on that, because I don't think that's about confirming it with Manson. That's just, he found it himself. He did confirm the identity with Manson.
Right, yeah. He confirmed the identity, and then, yeah. Well, then we don't know, I guess, how great the...
Yeah, it's Willy Wonka, no.
Wow, man.
We didn't exactly do this room justice the same way we did other rooms, but I feel okay about that. I don't know why. Does anyone want to go through the text or say anything more about this room?
Oh, yeah. Well, since Greg's not here, I'll speak on his behalf. There was a couple of things, and I think this was the room that made him quit the program. Well, at least on the Abyss. I think this was his theory. I think he was attributed this. When they talk about the middle class room, how the word maybe is sort of in between yes and no.
I like that.
Additionally, the fact that the door, I don't know, this is not Greg. I think this is Kontiki even. The fact that the maybe door is stark white as opposed to everything else in the room, which is got a gray shade to it. And that's all I got. I don't really want to. We pretty much talked about everything. The use of the word magpies.
Well, yeah, that stuff about the lighting that you mentioned, yeah, some of that has been confirmed, and it's a little weird how there seems to be a lot of darkness going into the door into 25 based on the image of the man and stuff, and yet the sign for yes is completely white, which is rather strange. I don't know if I buy that the no door is in shadow. I think it's darker. I think it's just a darker color.
Sorry to cut you guys off. I got an important phone call that came in.
That's fine. Thanks for joining us.
Yep, I will see you guys. What day next? Monday or Tuesday?
We never know this far in advance.
Okay, I'll see you soon, you guys.
All right, later.
Yeah, I don't know about the lighting stuff. It's partly been confirmed, but I don't I don't know. It's weird. White Raven has it that the 25, that the yes and no doors are both in shadow, and the 10 door is brightly lit. Which I don't know if I want to say that the no door is in shadow. I think it's just a darker color. And then there's that weird stuff going on with the yes sign on that door.
Well, it fits into the light and darkness theory, which we've talked about for a couple of shows. How there may not be a lot of constants in the maze, but one of them is light versus darkness being good and bad. Of course,
So
all the way to 24, which you're in complete darkness.
So why not then go to 25, which has this weirdly brightly illuminated yes piece of paper when the rest of it is shaded?
Because inside it's dark. You don't
Oh,
know.
yeah.
Maybe it might be light. Who knows?
I don't
The
know.
door is light, is what I'm just saying. It's
If you
generally.
meant for lighting to be a thing in this room, I feel like he made his choices weirdly.
Yes.
See, I don't know. You can see through the doorway to 10 through a little crack between the door and the door frame. It looks dark back there too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't mean anything.
Lighting's something weird. But I like, and I wish that it were confirmed. I like Greg's middle solution, because middle class is definitely one of the other few words in this particular passage that really seem to jump out. And I love maybe being a middle between yes and no. I think it's really good.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me.
Oh yeah, didn't you want to talk about where they had been and where they should go?
Yeah, which on the Abyss is taken as, look at the ship. You're coming from the unmarked door, which is what, 30. You're coming in from 30, which is door no. You're following the ship toward 10. But I have two problems with that. One, which is that we have already mentioned, which is that the direction that the ship is sailing / pointing in is somewhat debatable whether it's 10 or 25. And the other problem that I have with that being that you can just as easily come into this room from 25. You don't necessarily have to be coming in from 30. 25 contains the 34 is a two-way connection, so I don't see why why Manson would rely on us having come in from 30 to get that clue.
Yeah.
Okay, we've broken Vince. I guess we better end the episode here. Vince.
Well, I mean, there are some rooms where the text seems to suppose you came from a certain way, like in 38. The text seems to suggest you came down the slide, even though you can enter from a lot of different ways. So I wouldn't say it's impossible, but it does leave me skeptical that that's what they're talking about.
Yeah, I think in 38 there's such a clear little. It's just a little flavorful fun about that. Like there was a little confusion as we made our entrance.
Yeah.
And then in 14, which you mentioned earlier, we have that whole turning around thing where you actually can only get into this room from 10. You can't get into 43 or 24. But that's all cool. But in this room, I feel like you don't have that. You don't have that really great flavorful text pointer the way you have in 38, and you also don't have that actual enforced structural thing going on like you have in 14. So I don't feel like. I don't know, I just don't feel strong about assuming that you're coming in through 30 and using the ship as a...
And also, like you said, the ship seems to point to 25 about as readily as 10, so it seems odd to put that kind of effort into cluing that if you came in from the door on the right, you have to go through one of the doors on the left when you don't have any other choice anyway.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. I don't know, so... if I haven't killed myself, then we'll be doing another MazeCast episode next week, maybe. But it's hard to say. This has left me pretty blue. Well,
Do you have any other thoughts, or do we want to wrap this up?
No, not from my end. They finally got the message, which I thought was pretty obvious. That's ironic reading that now.
Yeah.
That's Manson laughing at us right there.
I Oh, I should have cut it off mid-laugh. Just say something else funny so I can pretend to laugh at that.
Nope.
Pins and needles. Needles.
As it is.
Eyes and zeros.
That was a really poor effort.